Hello everybody, it is me, Countess, back with another video, and as always, guys, I hope it finds you well wherever you are out there. Hope the summer heat isn't getting you down too much. I know, like, there's a major heat wave all across the world right now. So hence the background noise in this video. I have to have a fan blowing on me, just bloody hot, you know. But anyways, today in this video, guys, I just kind of want to, again, present a little excerpt of a book that I'm rereading because it's very interesting, and it is about the Rolling Stones and that whole debacle in Altamont, California, back in 1969. I just thought that this was a very interesting bit of information concerning this event because it was noted that this event kind of grouped with the Charles Manson murders killed the hippie dream, basically. That whole peace, love, and happiness, and, you know, doing things through non-violent acts and all of that, it totally came to an end in 1969 with all of these dark and heavy, and some would even say satanic, events that happened at the very end of the decade. So this little bit of this book is coming from a book that I have read many times, and I still find new interesting tidbits whenever I do read it, just like the memoirs. It comes from a book called Behind the Wall of Illusion, the Religious, Occult, and Esoteric Side of the Beatles, and it's by Mr. Sean Mcleod. Highly recommend this book, guys. While it doesn't really touch upon like the story we know as memoirs tells us about the Beatles' involvement with the occult as deep as it went, it does touch upon their dabblings in magic. It does their symbolism that they use, that they were a product of the Tavistock Institute. So I highly recommend this book for anybody out there who wants to know a little bit more information on, you know, that side of things, the metaphysical / occult side of this whole story. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, and this book does a great job of highlighting that God and hero worship. I did a video over a year ago called The Cult of the Beatles, and it came from this book about the Dionysus hero worship that was attached to the Beatles and even the Rolling Stones, you know. So I thought we could take a look at this section. It's very brief, so let's begin. It says, a few months after the Manson murders, but before the trial had become a media sensation, the Rolling Stones, the second most popular band of the 60s, and in many ways the symbol of the anti-establishment types behind the counterculture, were also involved in their own Black Day. Another omen that the new Aquarian age was nothing more than an unrealizable pipe dream. On December 6, 1969, with the moon fully in Scorpio, an ominous sign in astrological terms, the Rolling Stones, in an attempt to remain relevant by following a trend of free concerts that many underground bands at the time, like the Grateful Dead and the Jefferson Airplane, performed, they gave their own free concert in Altamont, California. The Stones, by trying to integrate themselves with the hippies, unfortunately encountered one of the darkest events in their career, casting a dark shadow over the 60s for at least the next 10 years. Very early on in their careers, the Stones had set themselves up as the anti-Beatles, and so powerful was their PR that they began to believe it themselves. going so far as to encapsulate in their image and performance the notions that they were in fact in league with the devil. Jagger, always the businessman, saw a new fad in the occult and began to connect himself to occult figures like the filmmaker Kenneth Anger and others. Their song, Sympathy for the Devil, was inspired by the book The Master and Margarita from 1967, and Jagger also played the role of a dapper Lucifer while branding the name Satan across his chest for the performance of the song in the band Sgt. Pepper's inspired movie The Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, a disastrous film from the Rolling Stones' point of view, which only saw the light of day many years later. Possibly inspired by Anger, who had become enamored with Jagger and thought him ideal for the role of Lucifer in his film Lucifer Rising in 1972. Side note, if you've never seen Lucifer Rising, I do have it attached in a playlist, along with the inauguration of the Pleasure Dome. These are two films by Anger that perpetuate this age of Aquarius being, spawn and the whole ideas of Thelema and Krallianity. He did a really beautiful job visually encapsulating Thelema in the inauguration of the Pleasure Dome. So I highly recommend watching those movies if you haven't seen them already. They are cult classics and really do highlight the whole agenda that has been being pushed onto society and the world for the last 50, 60 years now. So Keith Richards, as well as Brian Jones and his girlfriend Anita Pallenberg, also dabbled with the occult and some forms of black magic. Richards would even claim in a Rolling Stone interview that witchcraft, magic, and Satanism was something everyone should explore, and that he was an agent for Lucifer, while his girlfriend Anita Pallenberg was obsessed with black magic. Marianne Faithfull, who is very much a part of the Rolling Stones scene throughout the late 60s, however, suggests that the interest in such things was only a naive fascination in the usual hippie stuff and nothing more. Right? It's like trying to play it all off. Even though she was a part of Anger's film, she actually played Lilith in, or did she play? No, yeah, she played Lilith, not Hecate, in Lucifer Rising. So she has a connection there too. So I wouldn't really take what she has to say too seriously, because she herself was very much involved with these people as well. So by the time the Stones had taken to the stage to an audience of nearly 500,000 people, that is a lot of people, the atmosphere was very dark. 500,000 people together with neither rules nor regulations as to how they must conduct themselves can through sheer physical weight carry terrible destruction. You felt that the next few seconds or minutes you could die. A bad dream, but we were all in it, wrote one journalist. Other bands like the Jefferson Airplane, as well as the audience, had been attacked by the Hells Angels, who were there in the capacity of security guards, and by the time the band got to Sympathy for the Devil, all hell had literally broken loose, while Jagger pleaded to no avail with the crowd. One young black boy, Meredith Hunter, being bullied by the Hells Angels, pulled a gun. The Angels brought him to the ground and kicked and beat him until he was a lifeless corpse, which, according to researcher Mae Brussel, was nothing other than a ritualistic murder. Mae Brussel was a wonderful truther radio news broadcaster. She had a great show, kind of like Bill Cooper did, on a limited limited airspace sort of radio show. But she always delivered great material, and you can find a lot of her material on the Internet Archive, actually. So this ritualistic murder happened while the band played Brown Sugar, a song of sadism, savagery, race hate, and love, a song of redemption, a song that accepted the fear of night, blackness, chaos, the unknown, the fear that the mad-eyed Norsemen transplanted from Odin drunk mead halls to California desert, were still seeking mad-eyed to escape. While the Stones were not held legally responsible for the death, there was a sense of immortality that lingered around the band and the whole affair. And when a film of the concert, which was a major source of the whole problem, was released sometime later, the press came out with a condemning headline, "Making Murder Pay," describing the whole affair thus: "It is touched by the epic opportunism and insensitivity with which so much of the rock phenomenon has been promoted and written about, and with which I suspect the climate concert at Altamont was conceived." The event was widely condemned, leading the writer Germaine Greer to voice the opinion that the rock revolution failed because it was corrupted. It was incorporated in the capitalist system, of course, which has power to absorb and exploit all tendencies, including the tendencies towards its own overthrow. Very interesting. That's the end of that bit from the book. But I wanted to note the numerology of this whole event that happened, guys. It happened on December 6th of 1969. So adding all of those numbers up, 12 plus 6 plus 1969, you get the number 33. Reduce that, you get the number 6. So with those two numbers right there, all I can think of is that this was a planned sort of event that was orchestrated at the highest degrees. You know, the highest order of the Masons, the highest degree of the Masons is 33. Well, the highest known degree is 33. You know, those who are of the 33rd degree are masters of the temple. They are initiated fully into the Luciferian doctrine and promote it and encourage it. Number 6, representing obviously the great work and the joining of love and hate, light and dark, right? Bringing them together for this event to sort of close out the 1960s hippie pipe dream that was promoted, you know. So basically this, you know, and as we've learned from the memoirs of Billy Shears, you know, the Rolling Stones were not anti-Beatles, you know. They were not anti-establishment. If anything, okay, Tavistock set the Rolling Stones up as the, like, sort of rough boys and, you know, the ones who you might, you know, come from the wrong sides of the tracks, when in all honesty, the Stones were like, came from these like posh upbringings and, you know, strong middle class to upper class backgrounds with their families, while the Beatles came from, like, you know, maybe middle class, lower class, from the wrong sides of the track in Liverpool up north, right? So it's very funny, the juxtaposition, right? The Beatles projected this image of purity, of, you know, sort of being a square in a way before 67 hit. You know, I want to hold your hand, whereas Mick Jagger was saying, "I want to be your lover, baby." You know, there's a big difference in the sort of vibe of each band, but the actual personas of the bands don't match, you know, where they actually came from in life. So I just find that all of that interesting, and like the duality at play there with both of the bands, you know, and then them being pitted against each other all the time, when really they were great mates behind the scenes and partied with each other, you know. So all of this was, you know, said to have killed the age of Aquarius, right? The Aeon of Horus, which was spawned out of the 60s counterculture and consciousness movement, right? But in all honesty, just like Mae Brussels said, these were planned ritualistic killings that the elite loved to put on the world stage and then blame certain climates of the culture or certain lone nut people. But these actions do sort of propel a difference and a shift in the consciousness and a shift in the culture. And it did bring the sort of hippiness of culture to an end, but it still perpetuated this idea of Luciferianism. It still perpetuated the interest in the occult and in magic and all of that other stuff. You know, it did not die with the 1969. If anything, the dark side of all of this came to a head. And, you know, just like with anything, when duality is in play, the light had its time to shine, and then the dark came as a result of that light and boiled to the surface and joined together. That's where that 6 comes from in the numerology, at least in my mind. That's what it stands for. That this was, again, an orchestrated event, just like the Manson murders, to push this violence and shift the culture into a darker place. You know, get rid of this like love, peace, and happiness that the hippie children brought. You know, who wants that when you can have murder, mayhem, and chaos going on everywhere? You know, you have to have, you know, those juxtapositions and duality in order for things to even out. So yeah, that is all I have to bring to you today, guys. I just thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention and kind of see what you guys think about it. You know, do you guys think that the hippie dream died with all of this stuff? Or did you think, like I do, that it just was another side of this movement that came to a head finally? Let me know in the comments, guys. As always, thank you so much for joining me for another video, and please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't, or if you like this, give me a comment. I always like to hear what you guys have to say. But otherwise, that's all I have. So until my next video, guys, please take care of yourselves, and I will see you then. Bye, guys.